Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to Future Forum. We are here talking about creating the way forward. We heard a lot of really important points coming out over the last 2 days. A, a common thread across all of our conversation was curriculum reform, education reform, and putting the systems in place to help us appreciate, value, and really leverage our Trinidad and Tobago ness, our Caribbean ness, our arts, our culture, our history, our storytelling, our capabilities to create the way future forward. We also heard across all of the panel discussions a call for people to listen to youth and to think more like youth, to be open to change, to be open to adapting to the changing circumstances around us, and to be open to exploring the possibilities that exist at our fingertips, brought forward by technology. This afternoon, we have a really special lineup to discuss the way forward. We have the Honorable Brian Manning, Minister in the Ministry of Finance. Minister Manning brings a wealth of knowledge in applicable fields of studies like finance, asset management, international business, and marketing. We have Dr. Miriam Abdul Richards, who we all know from our media briefing. She's one of the leaders in this fight against this COVID-19 pandemic to bring us out of this situation into a really brighter, more sustainable future for Trinidad and Tobago. And joining us this afternoon are some really special heroes, youth representatives. We have Zion, Zachary, Nisa, and Nawar. So without any further ado, I would like to pass you over and introduce Minister Brian Manning to talk to us about, how do we create this future that we all need.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Hope everyone is well. Thank you so much for joining us on this rainy afternoon. We're here to talk about the future of the Trinidad and Tobago economy. And I would say in one word, that means diversification. Now, I know that's something that you've all heard many times before. But what exactly does diversification mean? Diversification is really a term that's used in risk management. We want to diversify from our mainstream of revenue so that we have other streams of revenue coming into our economy. And that is so when that mainstream of revenue, which for us is oil and gas, is somehow interrupted, that it does not undermine our entire economy. So that's why diversification is really important. It also creates lots of different jobs, opportunities. It makes for a more robust and stringent economy that is able to withstand different forms of any kind of adversity. So that's why diversification is extremely important. In the past, say 10 to 15 years, I believe, the HSF has gone a long way in helping Trinidad and Tobago to really resist a lot of the economic shocks that we have faced in the past decade and a half. How the HSF is supposed to work is during times of boom, a lot more money is put within the HSF as savings. And then during times of bust, we use portions of that money to really fund the government's operations so that the effects aren't felt as much. So it's supposed to keep the economy on a steady and stable trajectory. That's the main focus of the HSF. And I would say that if we did not have our HSF during this period of COVID, the country would be in a far more difficult situation. But let me get back to the discussion of diversification. I've listened to many discussions about diversification, but the one thing that I think a lot of people miss is that diversification is really a focus on international trade. We want to be able to sell our goods and services internationally in order to generate more foreign exchange. And international trade is built on one main principle, and that is competitive advantage. We have a lot of competitive advantage, several competitive advantages in Trinidad and Tobago, and it would behoove us to build industries around these competitive advantages in order to bolster our economy going forward. It would generate more foreign exchange, it would strengthen our economy, create more jobs and opportunities for people. One of the major things that continue to come up every time we talk about diversification would be industries that I believe that we have tried before in the past many times, but it would be extremely difficult for Trinidad and Tobago to really compete in international stage in some of those industries. And in various, for example, in various types of agriculture, it would be difficult for Trinidad and Tobago to compete. For example, we have tried rice in the past. Trinidad and Tobago, in the production of rice for export, does not have size, scale, technology, labor costs, or any of those kinds of advantages. There are countries in Latin America that have agricultural land holdings larger than Trinidad and Tobago. Even our neighbors next door, Guyana, if they decide to compete with us in export agriculture, we would have a difficult time competing. So it would be challenging for us to compete internationally. Also, some of the other niche industries would be very difficult for us because it would not generate a large amount of foreign exchange, nor would it, I would say, create a significant number of jobs. Remember, in the past decade, we have run deficit budgets and we have had multi-billion-dollar shortfalls in revenues. And what it means is that we are spending more money than we have earned. So we've had to borrow that money to make up for the shortfall, borrow or, of course, use from the HSF. It is my view that the main industries that I believe that will significantly add to the GDP of Trinidad and Tobago and to our ability to create jobs and to take care of ourselves will come in three main areas. One of them would be downstream energy, and that, of course, is oil and gas. Downstream of that energy, right now we have a model that is called a plantation model. We export much of our oil and gas. We have to attempt to use more of those resources locally to produce more opportunities for our people and ourselves. Also, the tech industry. Technology can be viable in Trinidad and Tobago because we have resources that the tech industry needs, mainly our ability to generate cheap energy, electricity, other forms of energy, data centers, production of semiconductors, photovoltaic cells, all of those things we have the ability to compete in internationally. And keep in mind that once we have those companies present, then we can become a hub for outsourced technology services, machine learning, artificial intelligence, quantitative computing. All of these areas would come with our ability to really be able to energize some of these manufacturing industries that underpin the entire tech sector going forward. And finally, I believe that Trinidad and Tobago can be extremely competitive in health tourism. We are outside of the hurricane belt. More importantly, we have a world-class medical school available right here in Trinidad and Tobago. We also have Tobago. Health tourism and Tobago would be a perfect combination. If you've been looking at the US news, even in Europe, healthcare is always a hot topic because of the cost of American healthcare. How it would work is that tourists would come into Tobago, they would have surgeries done, and then they would spend maybe a few days to a week recovering from those surgeries in scenic surroundings, nice, serene, green, clean Tobago. And we can become a world leader in that. We have the resources, we have the medical schools, we have the professionals, and think of the advantages that would bring. Those are high-paying jobs that will create more medical professionals. It's not bell boys and bell girls, as someone said about another project, Sandals project. These would be meaningful, sustainable jobs. So those, I believe, are the main industries in which Trinidad and Tobago will be able to compete going forward, can create a significant number of jobs, and also generate billions of dollars in additional revenues outside of our main oil and gas sectors. Thank you so much for listening.
Okay, so thank you, Minister. Lawrence, I think you're on mute, eh?
Yet again, I have not been able to successfully triumph over the unmute button for day two of this panel. But thank you very much, Minister, for those really great points on how we create this way forward. The panel discussion is open for you all, and we look forward to hearing what you all discuss.
Well, I'll be brave and start. And thank you very much, Minister. That was a very informative and succinct explanation and summary of diversification. I noted that you spoke about global competitiveness as a key factor in in managing international diversification. And I just wanted to discuss with the panel on something that we would have seen contextually over the last year or so, the impact on the COVID-19 pandemic, which has affected all of us, on competitiveness at all levels. So I don't know if any one of you want to speak around that and what your thoughts may be about competitiveness and global competitiveness, and how the COVID pandemic may affect our ability to diversify, as the Honorable Minister would have indicated, and what you see as some solutions and skills, and we can build on that.
Oh, wow. maybe we should define exactly what competitiveness means. What do you guys think being competitive means?
Well, Dr. Richard, you actually took the question I was going to ask the minister.
Okay.
So I think being competitive means being able to stand up to the bigger countries within the world. So, for example, the USA, the UK, Canada, and stuff like that. And one of my questions to the minister was actually going to be that for years we hear the term of diversity
over and over.
Every time, like a drum beating. So, what are the steps being taken by the Ministry of Finance? Because we did see in the budget there was 500 million allocated to agriculture. But if you want to push health,
why are you blaming the Ministry of Finance? Why are you doing that?
I never blame.
I understand what you're saying. But let me first explain. Competitive advantage really means that you can either build things that other people can't, or you can build at a cost that other people can't. Okay, we live in a very competitive world. We have to be able to compete. Either we can create a product that others cannot follow at a price that others can't follow. So that's how it goes. And we have a lot of natural competitive advantages, and it would be in our best interest to build our industries around some of these. Reading the Roadmap Committee report, there have been quite a few things that we are going to implement in terms of turning this economy around. One of the big plans is to become a lot greener. Okay, we have decided to diversify away from using gas to produce energy. There's a 150 megawatt power plant that is being built, photovoltaic cells, which would make Trinidad and Tobago the largest producer of solar electricity in the region. So that's one of the things that we're doing to diversify and to really reform our economy for the future. I truly believe that technology is one of the big things we have to get involved in, because we are moving into the fourth industrial revolution, which is a digital age. And we have the ability to be at the forefront of that age, and we need to do so. It's clear to all that over going forward, whether it's 30 years from now, 40, 50 years from now, the use of fossil fuels will decline. That's inevitable. And we have to prepare ourselves for what's coming. There have been discussions about green hydrogen, making our economy more of a knowledge-based economy. And when I talk about health tourism, that's considered essentially a knowledge-based industry where we can produce quality people and then have others come here to access those services. There's also an opportunity in the tech sector. If a lot of the tech industry is built around data centers, which underpin the entire internet, semiconductors, which are microchips, which are in every electronic device that you will ever use. And there's also photovoltaic cells, which is for solar energy production. These underpin the future of technology. And if we are able to produce those things competitively, we can become a hub here for tech professionals. There's a huge demand around the world for data scientists, for quantitative people, people involved in machine learning, artificial intelligence. And there's no reason why Trinidad today cannot start developing quality people in those fields and also become a hub of activity in those industries throughout the entire region. I hope that sort of answered your question.
Okay, so let me, before my other colleagues follow up, let me just hit you with a little follow-up question. We as normal citizens here struggle when we go to the hospitals to we take long to receive treatment. Sometimes appointment dates are far off. So then that would call for more investment into the hospital system within the country. So is that a plan of the government to invest more into the hospitals to develop it to be able to deal with hospital tourism?
Well, healthcare tourism is different.
Health tourism, sorry.
Yeah, it's our local healthcare industry receives one of the largest shares of our annual budget. One of the large every single year. So we've had management issues, to be honest, more than anything else, because our healthcare system is well funded, regardless of government. We have put billions of dollars into healthcare every single year. And maybe I'll let Dr. Richards say a few things about the local healthcare system that I would not be aware of and I would be enlightening to you and others. Dr. Richards?
Yes, so I take your very valid concern about concern, and prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, we actually started having discussions in that direction about health tourism, and not just about persons coming to Trinidad and Tobago for treatment, but exchange programs where we would have better resource allocation. So I'll explain what resource allocation means. It means that we have a very small population as compared to Latin America. And just before COVID, hit us in 2019, I was abroad on several trips that the Ministry of Health would have had, going to Latin America and looking at their hospitals to see how we could improve our services. And we were looking at what we could do for them at a certain cost and what they could have done for us. So there may be, let me give you an example again. There may be persons, let's say, a very small percentage of children would have very rare disorder. And in order to manage those life-threatening and rare disorders, we would need specific equipment. We would need doctors that are trained in a certain manner. We would need follow-up care therapists. And we may not have that category of staff in Trinidad and Tobago. We may not be able to retain and recruit those staff. So we would, in that case, engage in what are called bilateral agreements and bilateral arrangements or relationships with another country which has a larger population and specialty in that area. So we were in the process of looking at that sort of exchange. And then we may be able to do mass surgeries, or let's say a simpler surgery at a more cost-effective price. So we do an exchange. So that was one level that we were looking at in health tourism. The other level in health tourism that we were looking at was when, if private companies wanted to come to Trinidad and Tobago and invest, if they wanted to use available infrastructure that we may have had, like a building, to develop some sort of treatment center, and they would manage, but we would get some sort of, I would say, a management fee, let me put it simply, to us. The other way we were looking at health tourism was actually in terms of the knowledge-based economy that the Honorable Minister spoke about, and we were looking at the development of medical schools here. We had some offers. So that is where the development of health tourism as a diversification arm would really be addressed. Now, the health sector itself, you spoke about efficiency measures and so on. And one of the positives, if we can call it a positive, of the COVID-19 pandemic has been we have learned how to be a lot more efficient in the traditional health sector, a lot more efficient. How to see which patients we do not need to put into an A&E, who we do not need to ward. And the improvements, and I'm going to use another term for you all to remember, in how efficient we operate the health center, which we call operational efficiency, will lead to better arrangements, less waiting time, we are in a project to have information, to have a better information system in place. So we'd have all this waiting time, etc., better feedback to really improve that. But the health tourism part would be kind of, I would say, a separate project that would have to be run because that's a revenue generating project. So there are a lot more that's going on, but it will help strengthen the ideas from the traditional system. Was that a lot for you all about healthcare? Anything? I mean, it would be interested to hear from you all how you think COVID would have affected that. I mean, I cannot share with you, by the way, that COVID impacted on the on where we were going with health tourism, just because it kind of disrupted travel. We had to now reprioritize. So just to let you all know, I will continue and you all could add. Another way that the pandemic has caused us to readjust would be because of the public health measures that we've had to put into place. You all would know, like I'm sure all of you would have known about the borders being closed, right? So just think about how that could impact if we want to do business with other countries. Anybody here had any relative who had to have an exemption done to enter Trinidad or leave? You all heard about?
My grandmother, she had to leave because she has, she has everything. Basically, she's lived most of her life in America. So she had a lot of her health stuff like Medicaid and everything was in America. So she started, because she has diabetes and stuff, so she started getting sick because she couldn't receive all the stuff she needed to receive in Trinidad. Because even though she had a citizenship and she was born and she worked in Trinidad, she had most of her stuff was already set up for her in America. So
right.
She had to go back.
So the impact of the pandemic has really put a focus on us being able to be rapidly responsible, as we would say, agile. And it's, we always say that change is the only constant. I think if there was ever a time that we spoke about change being the only constant, it would have been, from 2019 onward, because we just had to adapt. We just had to move. We've had to change plans. So the pandemic globally, in every country in the world, has affected how competitive a country can be, how attractive a country is for a foreign investor to come in. And, certain things like the public health regulations, the fact that you need, for example, to be fully vaccinated to enter the country as a non-national. And if you're Trinidadian, you have to quarantine on entry. Those factors can affect competitiveness. So let's say we have a highly skilled professional who is coming in to do the health tourism project, but for whatever reason, he may not be fully vaccinated. He would have to go through a special process to be permitted entry into the country, if at all, and he would have to be quarantined. So now he would have to go through more paperwork, be screened differently, and when he enters, he would have to stay for 14 days in a hotel. So you would see how, and of course, policies would change based on if we have variants. You're hearing about Delta variants and Mu variants and Lambda variants. So the changing situation globally, be it whether it's an economic downturn that the Honorable Minister would have had a lot of experience in when he was abroad working, be it a pandemic, what I've had a lot of experience in, any global situation, what we refer to as shocks, external shocks, any volatility, remember those words, things that can't be held stable, affect the economy. And we need, as a population and as persons who work in the sector, who contribute to the sector, who have ideas, we need to understand how we can rapidly adapt to those changes with a focus on achieving an outcome. We want to make sure that we do things correctly, that we achieve some sort of trade, etc. So I see a comment here from Khalifa. Our healthcare needs some work so we can do to make it better. And I will say that we do appreciate and acknowledge that our healthcare system is a work in progress. It has been tested. Its resilience has been seriously tested, especially over the last 19 to 20 months. And we continue to work based on feedback, like from yourselves. Young people, you all make a difference. We work on feedback. We read your social media messages on the Ministry of Health. We read, we follow IG. So when we see messages, especially when it comes to things like vaccinations and what.
Well, Well, you've opened the Pandora's box, Dr. Richards. Vaccination. Um, you know, that is the new hot topic. You must be fully vaccinated to return to school, for
Right.
example. And I have been working very hard where I am to try to figure out strategies to encourage teenagers, especially, to be vaccinated. So,
Very
what
well.
is it at the ministry level? Because I do understand it's a whole of government approach because we at the AG's office is working on it. What is the strategy from the Ministry of Health to push this more? Because it seems as if we have reached the point where people who want to be vaccinated are vaccinated. So now it's encouraging those who are hesitant to be vaccinated. So what do you think?
That is an excellent summary. And maybe we should invite you to our media briefing so you could ask us that question. That's a really excellent question that you're asking. So when we look at the percentage of the population that's been fully vaccinated, we're somewhere around 30% of the entire population as of yesterday evening. And we looked at this theory called a diffusion of innovation theory. And we're actually, with the early adopters are there, the persons who would have been interested, the forerunners, and would have taken their vaccine. So we now into that kind of hesitant population. Now, the Ministry of Health partners with the Ministry of Education when it comes to vaccination programs that are dealing with schools, because of course the Ministry of Education is the subject matter expert, and they're the experts. They have all the research on schools, etc. We have seen 30% of eligible children as of yesterday being fully being vaccinated. With their first dose of Pfizer, which of course everyone is available for, and I think that's quite commendable. We would like to see more, of course, so that we can reopen schools. But we are trying to work with the Ministry of Education because it's really they are the leaders in promoting this, to share information to younger persons about the benefits of vaccination. We also would like to, answer any questions that you all had around vaccinations or any questions. We are making the vaccines very available, very accessible, so you can get the vaccines almost anywhere. And I think if it's one thing that we would have to really recognize the Ministry of Health efforts on, the process at the vaccination sites are very smooth. I don't know if anybody on that.
No, actually, I have to disagree
Wait,
with you.
hold on. Let me put
Yeah.
something to the panel. And Zaya, I see you mentioned Pandora's box in a pandemic. I saw what you did there. You think you're slick. All right, but I have a question I want to put to the panel. I spoke about competitive advantage earlier. What industries do you think Trinidad and Tobago will have competitive advantage in, and what are our competitive advantages?
Okay, I've been actually wanting to ask a question about this. Personally, I think if we invest more into the secondary sector, specifically the manufacturing part of the secondary sector, I think the finance and the economy of the country will do very, very well. Because I've read that by 2030, that if we continue using oil and gas at the point that we're using it, both exporting and using it for our own use in Trinidad and Tobago, that it will finish, or it will be depleted to the point that there won't be any enough.
That was a very astute comment on your part. I'd like to congratulate you. There have been many reports about when oil and gas will, quote unquote, run up, but there's no definitive answer to that question. But what you said earlier about manufacturing, you were spot on. Manufacturing is the second largest revenue earner for our economy. That's why there's Exim Bank, and that's why the manufacturing sector receives priority in terms of foreign exchange allocations. And it's because Trinidad and Tobago has lower energy costs and also lower financing costs than most of our CARICOM neighbors. If you travel to other countries in the region, you will see that their store shelves are filled with Trinidad and Tobago products. And it's because we can produce those products cheaper than our CARICOM neighbors. That is a very strong competitive advantage. And when I talk about us with data centers and photovoltaic cells and semiconductors, that's part of the manufacturing sector. So thank you very much That is absolutely right. Any other industries you guys can think of?
Education. That's where I see us having great potential. For example, we have the UA, we have UTT. So I believe that there needs to be more MOUs with territories throughout the region to encourage their students to come here, or the governments from those territories funding their students to come here and study. And
And that's how you develop a knowledge-based economy. That's what that's called. That's
to,
also an extremely relevant point. And to be able to compete in those fields, we have to be able to produce quality professionals. Education is already very much a part of our culture here in Trinidad and Tobago. When I was growing up, if you were a lawyer, doctor, or engineer, it's like you wouldn't do anything with your life, right? But the world is a big place, and we have to start developing professionals in cutting edge, leading industries such as technology. And you're absolutely right. We have to qualify our people and ensure that the industries that they can operate in exist here in Trinidad and Tobago so that we don't lose them. For example, the UE has a data science program right now, and data scientists graduating from that program would have a difficult time finding jobs in Trinidad and Tobago. So we can't just create the professional, we also have to create the profession at the same time. So that's an extremely relevant point.
Good question, Minister, because I don't know what would your thoughts be on retaining professionals, because the government gives a lot of scholarships to send persons out to train them, and they return as highly qualified. In some cases they would have gained experience. But how do we look at retaining persons, and not just retaining them on a compensation package, but how do we put them in the correct positions where they can effect change?
Yeah.
Have we looked at that? Because that's about sustainability, and we've seen, from our era, we would have seen so many people, get scholarships, do well, come back for 2 years, and then they leave. So how do we?
Yeah. And that's an extremely challenging situation, but it's something that has to be addressed in Trinidad and Tobago. And I think, one, improving our ease of doing business, and also making Trinidad and Tobago more meritocracy. That has also been a challenge. We have a lot of persons defending their own fiefdom from anyone who they believe is a threat. And in the long run, that I would say undermines our competitiveness as a country. And when we're well aware of that such a situation, we have to create the right jobs. If you are trained in a certain area, we have to ensure that there is a competitive job here. And pay package is a big part of it also, that you may not want to move to another part of the world to ply your trade, but you would want to stay in Trinidad and Tobago and assist in the development of your country, but also make a good living doing so. So these are all things that are part of diversification and expanding the opportunities locally for our professionals.
I would like to say also the agriculture, right? Expanding on that, because there has been a lot of complaints on the prices of the vegetables or the fruits increasing during this pandemic. So I think instead of like us importing more and the prices raising, if we could produce more of the vegetables and fruits in Trinidad, it would be better for us.
Yes.
And Minister Manning, may I just jump in there, right? On the agriculture point. We see the weather here today, and I'm sure by tonight we're going to hear about farms are flooded out and stuff like that. So I think there needs to be a push to implement preventative measures to as best as possible, holding these possibilities.
That's one of the reasons why we have that big push now with this government in terms of putting $500 million towards agriculture. One, it protects our foreign exchange. We spend close to $1 billion a year on imported food, which should blow everybody's mind. We 1.2 million people. We're spending $1 billion a year on imported food. Okay, we can do better in terms of our food security and producing more food locally for our own consumption. I remember people who associate Christmas with apples and grapes. And we don't grow apples and grapes in Trinidad and Tobago, right? You would think that Christmas, a Trinity Christmas would be associated with something else, right? Something local. So we have to do a better job. I think, if there's one thing that has come out of, one positive thing that's come out of the pandemic, it has been a change in impetus and the way that people view agriculture. I intend to set up my own hydroponics farm at home very soon. So, I'm looking at doing my part in terms of saving foreign exchange and not buying as many foreign produced goods. I think everyone should be looking into that. And as I go around the constituency in South Florida East, I see a lot more home farms, a lot more hydroponic setups, a lot more people being interested in growing their own food. I think that's a wonderful thing that will benefit Trinidad and Tobago going forward.
One other thing, tourism. I also think that tourism will greatly help the economy as we have such a strong culture as our culture. It's not like we took it from somebody else. It came from here, and we know what exactly our culture is, and like stemming from like the arts and culture that we had earlier today. Like we have such strong culture and strong. My bad. I'm sorry.
Careful.
I'm
Go
kind
ahead.
of. But yeah, like for example, Carnival, and I heard on Morning Edition this about 2 days ago that from Carnival alone, Panorama brings in a lot of money to the economy every single year.
Yeah, we have to do a lot more in terms of expanding what I call our Carnival product. And before the pandemic, we were doing extremely well in that regard. The pandemic completely shut down that industry for quite some time, and people involved there, have really gone through hardship. But if you look at it now, we have Trinidad and Tobago, people involved in that entertainment and carnival industry, whether it's in producing costumes, bands, DJs, artists. All of these people have been doing events and shows throughout the region, and now even in North America and Europe. We have, after they finish with Trinidad Carnival, there's Trop Over, there's Jamaica Carnival, there's Bahamas, there's Miami, there's New York, Labor Day, LA, there's Canada. We even have, Notting Hill in the UK. I think there's even a German carnival. I saw a video the other day with these Japanese children singing soca. So that product is spreading. And because of its spread, it creates more opportunities for our local artists to be involved in those industries. And that's why it's big. And that's why, during that entire, I don't know if you remember the Michael B. Jordan incident from several months ago. I was irate at the response of some people. Michael B. Jordan has a global brand. If we were able to attach our brand to his, and we would spread our culture on a wider scale, it would create more opportunities for our local artists, for people involved in culture. And I think it would be a revenue earner for our country as a whole. So I thought we missed a golden opportunity there. Some may disagree, but that's what I do.
I totally agree. And Minister, another thing that has been shattered by the pandemic is small businesses.
Agreed.
We have heard the noise that the government isn't doing much for small businesses. And I know that there is some grants and stuff to sustain them through the pandemic. But do you believe, and what is in place to help them after the pandemic to get back to pre-pandemic norms?
One major thing is that we're working on improving our ease of doing business in general. In some cases, it can be very difficult to access basic services. I've had difficulty in Trinidad and Tobago opening a bank account, for example. I mean, they ask you for everything possible. Take out a small loan. I don't know what else they would ask you, blood type, DNA. I don't know what more information they want. Okay, but we have to find a way to cut down that process to make it easier for persons who want to be involved in as you say, the SME space. Also, there are a lot of grants out there. There are a lot of opportunities for technical assistance. But I do believe that there needs to be more hand-holding in the SME space, because I've had an experience where I've worked with people in the SME space and they didn't have basic things in place. They didn't have unaudited financials. They didn't have their paperwork in place. They weren't paying taxes. They weren't paying NIS. And if you aren't doing those things and you come to the government for assistance, you're going to get rejected. The government cannot be facilitating wrongdoing. We can't say, well, you haven't paid taxes in 20 years? Sure, take our loan. No problem. Go ahead. It just doesn't work that way. But I believe we need to offer more handholding in that space to help people get themselves up to speed in terms of how the basics of managing a proper business. There are too many out there. They're undocumented, they're unbanked in some cases, don't have basic documents, and that needs to be improved.
I just want to comment on something. I appreciate the comment that you made about the pandemic and its impact on small businesses. But I think what we also saw, because you always have to look for the positives, as we have been doing for the last year, is that a lot of smaller social media-based businesses have sprung up. And also, we've also noticed that businesses have improved their efficiency. We've seen now how well curbside can work, collection points, and the pandemic and the need for social distancing and less mixing or commingling has resulted in business owners having to become very innovative in how they offer their service, expand their service, how they amend their service offering to fall within the constraints of the pandemic and really the new way looking forward. So yes, there has been that issue or challenge with small businesses, and that's a global phenomenon. That's not just in Trinidad and Tobago. That's in all countries. People would have been impacted. But I think that the small business persons in Trinidad and Tobago and a lot of innovative persons deserve commendation. You all would see how much on Instagram and how much business you could do on Instagram now. I have a little bit of a question here, a small question, short question here. What can youth do to support all of these ideas that are being shared? We've heard some great ideas. We're taking note of them. What can we do? How do we collectively at the foundation engage persons like policymakers, like the Honorable Minister who is with us, to share and support these ideas at a higher level? What would you say would have been the most interesting ideas for today? Not just in this session, but in others.
Okay, so I think that's a two-part question. How do we engage? I believe, and this is something I'm working on right now with the COVID vaccine, is having a symposium on it to educate people. So I believe we need to have symposiums with ministers regularly, not only for election time. We need to be able to chat with them and also have more youth, like interns, not only within first like the banking system, but have them within the ministries, have them working there, have them being able to intern with the minister, talk to them regularly and stuff like that. That is my belief on how we can interact more.
Are you on my MP's Facebook page?
I follow you, yes I do. And I'm actually by your counterpart, I'm actually by the AG until September. So I've been...
Okay, good. All right. Well, we usually have a lot of discussion forums on our MP Facebook page. So we advertise it there. So we had some discussions so far, financial literacy. We have an agricultural program. And that's where we really invite young people to come in, but not just young people, but everyone, right? To come in and give us opinions, because I don't know everything, and I can't do it all by myself. I want to hear from the general public exactly what it is that you would like to see from your public representatives in terms of making Trinidad and Tobago a better place for all, right? So I appreciate that. Keep looking at our MP's page, and you will see our future events. Please join in and participate. All right.
I would also say these types of events would be best for the youth to participate in. And also, I don't know if this is a big problem, but going back to the culture, I think our national instrument, the steel pan, right? Being a music lover, I listen to a lot of hip hop or rap. And as you could see, a lot of rappers are using the steel pan as an instrumental. And one of the biggest songs is ZZ. I don't know if you all heard of it, but seeing the national instrument in these songs, it makes me very proud. But the thing is, the people only know it as a steel drum, but they don't know the history of it. I would like to know if we could find any way to like engage everyone about the history of it.
Who's your favorite rapper?
Um, I have no comment about that. There's a lot of them.
I know you're gonna say somebody like 6ix9ine or Lil Yachty or one
Nah,
of
nah,
those guys. Nothing like that, right?
nah.
No, okay. I'm a more of an old school rap fan.
No
But
comment, be diplomatic answer.
no
Yeah, it's a
comment.
old school rap with like with Kanye West and Ice Cube and with the steel pan.
Yes, I think Fabulous had that song "Into You," a steel pan version. I think that was very popular at one point in time. But you're absolutely right. The steel pan is is a national instrument. I don't know if you saw that the Prime Minister opened a pan manufacturing sector the other day. I mean, I think that's just the beginning. We're going to roll on a lot more of that. You have to understand the steel pan. We have what you call it. We have patent rights over the development of the steel pan, and because it was invented in Trinidad and Tobago, there's no other pan like a Trinidad and Tobago steel pan. Other people could create a steel pan, but it wouldn't be a Trinidad and Tobago steel pan. It's like a Swiss watch. There are other watches, but there's nothing like a Swiss watch, right? And there should be nothing like a Trinidad and Tobago steel pan. So that gives us some competitive advantage in that case in terms of intellectual property. So you're definitely on the right course with that. And we have been making moves. I remember, I don't know if you recall the G-Pan, which was also trademarked some years ago, which is like electronic pan. That has also done extremely well. I think there's a lot more that's going to be involved in that space. Even though, as I said earlier, I would like to see a lot more opportunity for persons in our cultural and arts sector, but they also need to put their house in order, just like the SMEs, because a lot of them are small and medium businesses. And, they, unfortunately, when they want to interact with the system, if they do not have their house in order, they're going to have a difficult time also in terms of small loans, technical support, those things. You must be able to show your tax returns. You must be able to show your unaudited financials. Nobody's going to give you money or a small loan if you can't show us the financial health of your business. How are we going to know if you can pay it back? They're not going to give you money and say, oh, go ahead, do what you want with it. That's just not the way it's going to be. So again, I think technical support is important in that sector. But you're absolutely right. We have a lot of opportunity in terms of our cultural sector, and it's something that I would enjoy working to develop in the future. Okay, folks, I think we're close to wrap up time. I know we are a bit over, so I don't want to overstay my welcome.
Okay, well, I'm going to jump into the conversation here since we are close to wrap up time. I mean, Minister Dr. Richards, thank you for sitting down on this panel and having this discussion. I'm unmuted, right, this time?
Yeah.
I mean,
Well done.
The comments that have been coming in have been really great. People are really enjoying the discussion. You all took some really hard questions this afternoon. What we try to do at Heroes is not in any way at all filter or shape the views of the young people. We try to take the views as they are, so they help us shape what we do at the organization. And I really want to say how grateful we are that both of you all sat down in this discussion and took the views and listened and shared and was so open with it. It was really phenomenal to see this interaction. I have a question to ask everybody in this session this afternoon, because what we want to do is really build this Trinidad and Tobago that we want, that we need together. A few points that came out in addition to what you all discussed over the last 2 days. One, curriculum reform at the top of the list from every single one of the discussions we had. A renewed commitment and trust to ICT advancement and enhancement, more leveraging of technology in the education system and in the national system and in businesses. Collaboration, more of we, less of me, and tapping into our competitive edge as Trinbagonians, creative people. Now, I think achieving the first one, that curriculum reform, is going to translate into those transformational outcomes that are going to impact upon all of the areas: technology, agriculture, arts and culture, energy, education, equality. With everything that we've discussed over these last 2 days, with everything that you all are involved in right now, trying to get us to this better Trinidad and Tobago, everyone on the panel, including our youth, what is one thing that you think that you want everyone looking on to do to help us get towards this bigger, better Trinidad and Tobago? And we are going to start with the youth panelists first, and then we'll come back to Minister Manning and Dr. Abdul. So Zion, you're up first. What is one thing that you think everyone can do to help us get to that future?
I believe that one thing everyone can do is come back to me, come back, because I want to give a diplomatic answer.
Sure, Zachary.
Probably participate more in what is going on in our country instead of what is going on away, because it have a lot of people that share their talents away instead of in our country itself. So I would say be more participate more in the activities that are going on in our country.
Excellent, thank you. Nisa, let's hear from you.
I would say that people shouldn't just think of their own ideologies of what they think should happen. They should also open up their minds to think about what other possibilities there are. As some people still think that Trinidad will be in this place forever, and it will still be like, okay, well, we rely on gas forever, as if oil and gas are going to last forever, as if we can't rely on manufacturing or tourism. If people could focus more on, could think that, well, maybe at some point the gas gonna run out, and at some point we'll have to rely on something else, and we'll have to do something else as a country. And if people could see the views of others, not just with the economy, but like, for example, the vaccine. Some people are like, oh no, well, we can't take the vaccine's gonna kill us. I don't think so, but but yeah.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Zion is ready.
Okay, so I believe that the country needs a change in mindset. We basically need to press pause and reset everything, because we are going down this road right now where everything is structured, and we need people to branch off and do different things. Because every year there will be a class of new doctors graduating, a class of new lawyers graduating, and that's in the hundreds. But for those industries which we really need to develop, you might see 20 people graduating. And that is what we need to change. We need to change the mindset that you will only be successful in this country if you're a doctor, lawyer, or engineer.
Excellent. Thank you very, very much, Dan. Minister.
Yeah, I would wholeheartedly agree with that point. My advice to young people is that you prepare yourselves to participate in this economy and the economy to come. That I don't care who it is in government. No one can help you if you don't help yourself. I see too many young people who are not qualified. They're not qualified in anything. You must have a marketable skill in this life to get what you want. But yet, I see them in my office, they say, hey, I want a house. I want this. I want that. But in any economy, you cannot be compensated more than the skills that you contribute. Okay? If I'm a business person, I hire you as an employee, and you add $5 of value to our business, we cannot pay you $10. No business can do that in business, none. Okay, so regardless of who is in office or whatever happens, ensure that you have prepared yourself to participate in the economy, this one and the one to come. I would also say to buck up on your tech skills. I don't care what industry you are going to participate in, even in music. You know, if you can't use a processor or one of the production platforms or an MPC, even turntables now are extremely technical. You have to improve your tech skills. You're moving into a digital world. Where there's healthcare, there's biotech. You know, engineering, there's more CAD. Whatever it is becoming more and more digital by the day, and it is in your best interest to prepare and develop your digital and technical skills. That would be my advice for any young person.
Excellent. Thank you very, very much, Minister. Dr. Richards, your advice.
So, my advice to everyone would be that we need to operate with a renewed sense of national pride and civic responsibility. We were placed in a very interesting situation for a year plus when our borders were closed and we had to stay in Trinidad and Tobago, and we had to appreciate what we had, locally. And I'm pulling from what was the comments that were made earlier about us understanding that we need to focus on what's happening here and in. We need to understand that decisions that we take, be it in our education, be it in the positions that we hold, whether it's in the private sector, public sector, are all tied to national development. That is developing the country, not just for us and our families and the people in our home, but it helps everyone around us. So we have to continue to engender national pride and civic responsibility, and to be proud of our country and proud of what we can do and how we can contribute. We have to move against the mindset of, my opinion doesn't matter, or they'll never hear, because we do listen. We do want to have ideas and lobby in the appropriate way. So from our perspective, and I think this is for everyone, be it if we're government officials or citizens or students, we have to start listening more. Listen to the suggestions that persons have. We have to all appreciate that we don't know everything, regardless of our skills, experience, qualifications, and that we are all works in progress. And on a personal level, I think we need to develop the skills of resilience and agility, and practice humility and respect, regardless of whatever position we are in, because we don't know when our position will change. So my advice would be developing personal skills, and using that to harness our approaches moving forward.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I think, just by the bits and pieces of advice that the five of you all gave, we have a very clear roadmap on how to build an even better Trinidad and Tobago. Before we wrap up the end, for the end of Future Forum, Zion, I know you had a really special request that you wanted to deliver to Trinidad and Tobago, so I'm going to give you the digital space to do that.
Okay, so my special request to all of you here is to do your part and get vaccinated. COVID is not something that affects you alone. Your actions affects other people. And by you not being vaccinated, if you can, you put the lives at risk of those who cannot be vaccinated due to health reasons. So do your part, get your jab, and encourage someone else to get a jab.
Thank you very much, Zion.
Thank you
I
very
greatly
much,
appreciate that message. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Zion.
Excellent. So thank you very much to our afternoon panel on creating the way forward for Trinidad and Tobago. I think that was a phenomenal way of wrapping up day 2 of Future Forum. Before we close today, really, really special thank you to every single person who was a part of Future Forum for these last 2 days. For all of our youth panelists who came out and speak, who had the courage to come out and speak. To all of our experts and industry professionals who put aside some of their time to sit down and share their knowledge and share their insights with our younger, new future leaders, and to also listen to what they were saying. And to our ministers, our government representatives who came and spent their time to listen to what the youth of Trinidad and Tobago want for the future, I say very special thank you. I'd also like to thank again the team at the Heroes Foundation for all the work that they do that goes into really delivering our youth development programs. I mean, we deliver the Big Brothers, Big Sisters of Trinidad and Tobago, the Heroes Development Program, which is in school, and then the Migrant Heroes Development Program to support migrant youth living in Trinidad and Tobago. And those programs are really designed to give youth that understanding and that safe space to go about understanding themselves, who they are, their strengths, their potentials, their abilities, and gives them that space where they can explore and collaborate on opportunities to help to really meaningfully contribute as global citizens to a peaceful, a just, and a sustainable society. So thank you, team, for really being heroes and bringing us to where we are at today. The board of directors at Heroes is always very supportive. I'm so happy that we were able to close off both of our days with a director sitting on the panel engaging with the youth, because that is what Heroes is all about. And finally, the volunteer team that helped pull together this forum. This is the first time that Heroes Foundation has done anything like this. We had a team of phenomenal volunteers who were up on the weekends and all hours of the night helping us plan and pull together this event in a matter of weeks, and we are grateful for all of your support. To the team at the IDB, we could not have done this without you. To Karina, Alicia, Latoya, thank you so much for believing in us at Heroes Foundation and for really stepping up and supporting youth development and for helping us create this space where we could connect our youth leaders with industry professionals and government stakeholders. Going forward, we are going to compile an in-depth report with everything that was said, all of the ideas, all of the recommendations, all of the asks, all of the unanswered questions. And we're going to take that forward and present it to everybody who was here as part of this. So this is going to be the youth view on creating the future. And we're going to be working on turning some of those ideas over the next year into reality, into action plans that we can then go and implement to really help us get to that future that we want. With that, we have come to the end of Future Forum. Thank you everyone for being a part of this journey with us. Like Heroes Foundation, all the social media platforms, stay tuned with us. Reach out to us if you have any questions or suggestions. If you'd like to find out more about getting involved with what we do. And stay tuned for a lot more to come from the Heroes Foundation. Thank you everyone. Stay safe. Like Zion said, get vaccinated, take the jab, and let's continue to work together to build an even better Trinidad and Tobago.